Hello, my name is Greg DeVette, and I'm here to teach any newcomers how to use Yahoo Fantasy Hockey Pool. Now, I've got the pool up on my computer, and right now I've got a spreadsheet looking at my team, and I'm going to scroll down here so I can look at my team. Now, these games are being played right here. I've got tomorrow's games. Let me scroll back to look at today's games. So for Tuesday, October 9th, I've got a number of my players playing today. As you can see here, I've set my lineup. Some of the games have actually already begun, and some of my players have started getting points for me. Now, if I want to set my lineup, these games are already being played this evening and already underway, so it's too late to set the lineup for today, but let me look at tomorrow. It's very important to set your lineup correctly, and the reason for this is your players will only score points for your team if they are actually on your roster when the game is being played. So if I look on my lineup for tomorrow, Wednesday, as you can see right here on the top left, I've got a player here, Mark Stone, on my bench. Now, if he scores any points today or on this particular day, I will not get any. Whereas Claude Giroux here, I've got him slotted in left wing. He will score points for me. So let me move Mark Stone up to right wing. Perfect. So I've got him in my roster. Any points he scores will count for my team. Now let me see if I can see what my lineup's looking like for Thursday. All right, so the following day, now this is a big day in the NHL, and as a result, you'll see that there are a number of teams playing. I've got a roster right full of people here. All of them are on, but Nick Foligno down here in the bottom, unfortunately, I'm going to have to keep him on my bench, and the reason why is because I actually don't have any room for him anywhere. He has a lot of availability to play different positions, center, left wing, right wing. That's a big advantage because he can fit into any slot. But because, again, it's such a busy night in the NHL, I don't have a place to put him. He's the worst player on my team, so I've got him on the bench. Scrolling down a little bit further, I've got my goalie starting as well. And a couple other things I wanted to show you is if you look here where it's orange and yellow, this is where you get news items for your players. So if I want to figure out what's going on with Mike Smith, he's my goalie, I'm going to click on him. And there's a little bit of a news nugget here saying that basically he played like shit his last game. And so that's sort of something that I'm learning about. But I kind of knew that anyway. Most news nuggets are a little bit better than that. So it's always good to check in and see if there's something new kind of popping up on your players here when they get the yellow and orange tabs. Take a look. Another important thing to note about your roster is if you've got a player who does get injured at any point, you can actually put him on the injured reserve. Now, what that means is, so for Seth Jones, because he's on the injured reserve in real life, there's a possibility not only could I put him on the bench or in defense, but any player who's injured in real life, you can actually put him on the injured reserve on your team. And the importance of that now is I've got a roster slot open. So I actually, when I did this, I picked up another player off of waivers. I picked up Alexander Edler. So it still lets me use my roster spot for defenseman. A couple other things that I wanted to show you here is how the matchups work. So right now I'm in a matchup with the Bukkake Bandits, and we're playing, getting an announcement there. I'll just try and click away from that. So we're playing this week, and as you can see, we've got a number of different categories that are counting for our team. Now, the winner of this matchup will be the person who gets the most points at the end of Sunday's games. So if you look here, I'm winning in most categories, not goals, not hits, but each of my guys are scoring points in each of these categories, racing against these bandits of Bukkake to try to get more points than them. So it's always important to take a look and see in a given week kind of where you're doing well and where you're not doing well, and trying to get as many points as you can, as many as the entire 11 points by the time all the games are done Sunday. Monday morning, I'd be playing then a whole week head-to-head matchup against another team. A couple other things here. If I go to the league, now you don't just have to set your own roster. You can actually, so here in the league, I can sort of see what other teams are doing, who's beating who so far this week. But an important thing to note is that you can actually look and see what players might be available on waivers. So here on my particular pool, a number of players, as you can see here, the pluses, these are players that have been added. For example, one person had their goalie hurt, threw him on the injured reserve, and he picked up the backup goalie, Casey DeSmith. And a number of players are being added and subtracted off of teams. Now, there's two reasons that you would want to pick somebody off of waivers. And I'm going to go to show you a bit more about that. So the first reason is if you've got a player who's playing like crap and you really don't want on your team anymore because they're underperforming, I can think of one player, Martin Marenson off of Kim's team, who's a very poor hockey player. And I've seen a number of you may have a couple other poor hockey players. If you're noticing that the player is just really not playing well, what you can do is, so it just say, if I want to do it on my team, I say, you know what, I don't like the guy who I've got on my own team. I can say, you know what, I'm going to add Matt Martin, some other player that seems to be doing well. And to do that, I'm going to subtract a player off my team. Let's just say it's Nick Foligno because I couldn't get him in the lineup anyway. Can't because he's playing in today's game, but let me see if I can find somebody. We'll say Jaden Schwartz. So what I can do here is I can add Matt Martin and subtract Jaden Schwartz. In real life, Matt Martin's a very poor hockey player, so I wouldn't want to do that. But just clicking here, that allows me to do that. So one reason to do that possibly would be if your player is not playing well, but often it can work really well too. So for example, let's say if I'm going back to my matchup, Sunday rolls around and I'm just behind on my goalie statistics. I need a win. My goals against average isn't doing very well, and I want to get maybe a couple more points to win these categories here. You might pick up a goalie for that week, or you might pick up a player who has four games to play that week, and maybe you'd pick them up at the beginning of the week and drop them at the end of the week. These sorts of things just to help get more games played in your roster. Let me see if there's anything else I can show you to help you understand. So we've talked about setting our lineups. One thing that can be kind of nice to look at, and there is an app for this, by the way, too, which I would recommend you getting. The app probably shows this a little bit better, but you can look at which players are playing the best. So current. So this player, for example, is currently the 22nd ranked player in the pool. This person's 25th. You can kind of play around and see which ones are playing well lately. And there's also in the Yahoo app, which I recommend getting, a way of looking at transaction trends and looking at which players other owners are picking up over the past 24 hours. Let me see if there's anything more I'd like to show you. So we'll go back to my team here. Okay, so you do have the opportunity to trade for other players. So I've got a couple trade requests here. I've got one that people have tried to trade me and another one that somebody has requested me. So let me just open this up. So this is one from my friend Ken. I would never accept this. This is a really stupid trade request. I'm going to reject it because I know that his player is awful. So I'm going to reject that trade. But let's just say I wanted to go into his roster and find out maybe a good trade that might work. So I go to league. We'll go back to Ken and see if I can reoffer him something here. All right, so let's just say I wanted to get Elias Pettersson. I'd click on this little trade icon here. I'd say, okay, so Pettersson's coming to my team. Let's say I want to do Pettersson and Giordano, the defenseman. All right, we'll say I'll take those two guys, but to trade them away, I'll trade them away for maybe one player. So why don't we say Jaden Schwartz? All right, maybe we'll do a 2-for-1. So just Jaden Schwartz for those two players. All right, so I hit continue. And it gets to say, are you sure? That sort of thing. Here, and I'd say, yep, these are the ones I want to do. Continue. Oh, and so I've got to drop a player if I do that. So we'll say I drop a Hornqvist. And the reason why I have to drop a player is because I would be over my roster maximum if I did that. All right, so now I can, and if I wanted to say, I'd say, hey, Ken, I can add a little note, what do you think, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Your guy is not that good, and giving him some rationale for wanting to do the trade. And I would just send the trade proposal that way. Note that anytime you pick up someone off of waivers, you do have to put somebody on your team onto waivers because you have only so many people you can have on your roster. I'm sure more items will come up, but hopefully that's a good primer. I would say that the app is a little bit better than the regular computer version, so I'd encourage you to get that and have fun playing Yahoo Fantasy Hockey.